Hi, we're Virtual Instruments, and we are a virtualization and storage trailblazer.
Okay, we're at the Virtual Instruments booth next. We're going to be talking to John Gentry, VP of Marketing. John, how are you doing today?
Doing really well. It's been a great show so far.
Awesome. What? Tell us a little bit about what Virtual Instruments does. What problems do you solve for the guys that are walking around here?
Well, I can start with a kind of high level and then drill into it. So at a high level, we provide infrastructure performance management across physical, virtual, and cloud infrastructure. So we like to tie things back to the fact that all the hype around cloud and virtual still ultimately runs on physical infrastructure. And so we instrument at all layers in a multi-vendor environment and deliver information around performance, utilization, and health of all those layers of underlying systems, virtualization, and so forth. So we do that via the Virtual Wisdom platform. The platform itself is an aggregation server. It collects data, correlates it, puts it forth in terms of dashboards, reports, and so forth. Collects data from 3 distinct sources. So there's 2 software-based probes, one of which, the virtual server probe, talks to the VMware implementation, pulls vCenter for statistics around CPU, memory, etc. Okay. That correlates with another software probe, which is the SAN availability probe. That probe pulls metrics from the fiber channel SAN around overall utilization and health, okay, and looks at how those two are interplaying from VM across fabric. Okay. And then the third probe type is our SAN performance probe, and this is actually a physical device that has access to the fiber channel signal via this traffic access point, or TAP. And we've actually got that in our booth over here. Okay. And this is a display of 2 different TAPs. The TAP is a passive, non-powered device. It sits in between typically the fiber channel core switching and storage infrastructure. Okay. The live feed would go into the TAP here. The primary path would come out of the back and carry on to the storage array or switch. A secondary path would come out and into our SAN performance probe. So we're literally taking a copy of the light, passing it to this probe, and looking at every single fiber channel transaction that's taking place on that wire at 8 gig line rate in real time. So we're measuring things like systemic latency down to the microsecond, aggregating those statistics into 1-second increments, and passing them up to the Virtual Wisdom server to be correlated with the VM data and overall SAN fabric data. So that's when we talk about from the physical through the virtual and ultimately cloud, is getting information from all those layers, correlating it, and giving customers visibility into what's happening in a highly virtualized infrastructure.
And I think the key thing that I remember from working with you guys is that it's all like real-time instant. There's not gaps, and the problem is if you have gaps in what you're examining, you end up with maybe missing some key piece of information, right?
Yeah, I mean our philosophy is you have to be real-time, you have to be at line rate, you have to be on the wire. We would prefer at the protocol level, because I like to say the protocol doesn't lie, right? And in a highly virtualized infrastructure, if you're 5-minute, 20-minute polling, you're looking at performance in a rearview mirror. You've already had a business impacting incident. You need to know immediately. You need to manage performance in real time. And that's where this performance probe gives us access to that level of granularity and that comprehensive data.
Okay, so then if I'm using this, show me what I'm going to be looking at.
Absolutely. So we'll step right over here. This is a dashboard. A couple of things I'll point out about the dashboard. Right along the top here, this is a slider bar, and this actually allows you to go backwards and forwards in time on your data. So all the way to the right here would be present time, but for example, if someone comes and says, hey, we had a slowdown in the infrastructure yesterday at 2 o'clock, you can pull back to yesterday at 2 o'clock, and all these subsequent dashboards and widgets will time correlate to that time frame.
So almost like a TiVo for your SAN.
TiVo for the infrastructure, okay. Yes. And then this is actually a fairly sophisticated dashboard. Each of these tabs represents a unique view into the data, and each of the metrics widgets on that tab represents a unique combination of metrics. So this one's very much built for a fiber channel SAN troubleshooting or administrator, but you could have much higher level dashboards that say just give you an overall latency or response time for Oracle.
Okay, well great. Thanks very much for your time, John.